Hi, everybody. This is the post Vivek kind of breakdown little show with Humanity Assemble. I'm Christy Kelly. We have Devin Jones with Southside Republicans. We have Miss Stephanie Trussell. She is a Chicago native that was at the event. And we have Latasha Fields, who is a homeschool educator. And of course, we have Ms. Kathy Barnett that needs no introduction. Kathy, how did all this come to be?
Well, thank you so much for having me on your space. I truly appreciate it. Oh my goodness. How did it start? It was what is today? Tuesday. So it was last Monday. That's how crazy this all is. Every day is like drinking water from a fire hydrant. We are running on a daily basis in this campaign, and I'm loving every minute of it. I guess this is how you go from, I think we've been doing this now for about 10 weeks, maybe 12. I'm going to just push it up to 12 weeks. And 12 weeks ago, we were polling at 0. And now, 12 weeks later, we are tied. The last poll, one of the last polls I saw, we're tied with former Vice President Mike Pence for third place. And you don't go from 0 to now tied for third place among a field of highly recognizable, high name ID candidates by just sitting around and twiddling your thumb. So we are moving every single day. And about a little over a week ago now on a Sunday, so I don't know how you say that. So maybe about 9 days ago on a Sunday, Vivek saw a video that went viral of the residents on the south side of Chicago doing a press conference. And they were doing a press conference on the steps of I think it's called South Shore High School, where the governor has decided will house illegals. We don't know who these people are. We don't know where they're going after this stop. We don't know how they're going to take care of themselves. We don't even know if they like us as Americans or not. And yet, the governor of Illinois, like so many left-leaning governors, have decided to pick them up at the border and bring them to the state. Or in many cases, you have people like Ron DeSantis and others who are busing them in to Illinois because Illinois is considered a sanctuary state. But nevertheless, the residents of the south on the south side of Chicago, they had a problem with that, and rightfully so. Vivek heard them, and what he heard were people who were saying the exact same thing he says about illegals coming into our country, about an unsecured border and how important it is for us to secure our border. And so he didn't see Black people speaking a message. He didn't see people on the south side of Chicago speaking the message. What he saw were fellow Americans saying the exact same thing that he is saying. And so Sunday night, he saw that. Right after he saw that on Sunday night, he texted me, he called me, and he said, I want to go. And so that was Sunday night. The following Monday, I was on the phone with my new best friends from Chicago, Latasha, Devin, Stephanie, and you, Christy, along with Rob Cruz and a couple of others. And we started having a conversation less than a full 24 hours later. And me expressing to all of you that Vivek wants to come to the south side. He wants to level up and elevate, put a magnifying glass on what the people are saying there. He wants to elevate it and make it a national conversation there on the south side. And you guys were true to form. You helped me bring Vivek to your community, and I think it was a glowing success.
It sure was. It sure was. So Devin and Latasha, you guys are right there on the ground, right there in the Tasha, right there in the midst of us. Tell us a little something. Go ahead, Devin.
It. So first of all, I could have never imagined that any presidential candidate would actually pick up on it so quickly and then come to the South Side. Um, it's funny because just prior to that, I was on the phone with Latasha. I talked to Latasha and Ronald, her husband, almost every day, if not every day.
That is
And
a true story.
it,
I can verify that to be a fact.
so they're
I
like
love
my
it.
big
Yeah,
brother
the
and sister.
joke here is not to cut you off, but the joke to piggyback just that point. We just say Devin lives in our attic. All right.
So I was telling Latasha I had just come back from Detroit actually, and I had called Latasha and I was telling her that the police station near our house, we don't live that far from each other, and I was saying, you know, I drove past the police station and it was overrun with migrants. You know, they were outside, they were all over the place, and I actually walked into the police station and you couldn't even get through the door. You know, there were families, it was mostly adult, unaccompanied, you know, adult men. And I think we must have had like a 2 hour conversation about that. And in less than a week, we were getting a call from Kathy that Vivek wanted to highlight this issue that was going on in the community. I was actually at one of the two town hall meetings that was had on that subject at South Shore High School. Not the one where the viral video came from, but I believe there was one right before that that I had actually gotten the opportunity to attend. Um, the South
True
Shore
Chicago.
neighborhood. What'd you say?
I heard a train, a true Chicago.
I look. I tried. It's Chicago. You're gonna hear trains, planes. Hopefully, no gunshots, but at least you'll hear the industry. And so I was able to attend one of those meetings and see just how dramatic of a situation they have put us in here in Chicago. All our police stations just about are overrun with migrants. They're getting ready to stop some of the summer programs in many of our parks. As you can see, many of our closed schools are going to be used to house these people. Homeless vets have been evicted from the hotels that the Department of Veterans Affairs was providing for them and being replaced by people coming through our southern border. And so it's just a dire situation. And in that neighborhood, South Shore and Woodlawn, where you have the Obama Presidential Library that is literally gentrifying and displacing longtime residents, now you're saying a high school that you shut down and could have been repurposed for trades, for some type of educational institution, maybe for some type of family community center, any number of things that school could have been used for. It's also the school that my father actually graduated from. Now we're saying that the community that's being displaced, overtaxed, overburdened by government is now going to have to use what little resources they have to house people who have by and large come here illegally, and we're pouring more resources into illegal immigration here in Chicago, including our municipal budget surplus, than we are into the citizens who are actually paying taxes and working hard and being displaced here.
Wow. So Stephanie, and also Tasha, either one, when the plan started to develop about how it was all going to come, to be with the town hall and then, the walk and just the whole plan, were you nervous? Like, what did you think? Like, what were your thoughts? Because you guys know the area, the residents. Tasha?
Yeah, thank you for having me, Christy, and thanks, Kathy. Everybody. When Devin called me, we were both a little taken back. I didn't really take it that serious. Presidential candidate, like, okay, if he come, that's fine. And so when we really talked, because it's me and Devin, he lives in the attic, praise the Lord. So when we really got to the meeting talking about it, we really started seeing a historical content of it and the magnitude and the gravity of what this would mean. And I'll be honest, just for the Black community, because we hear so much of, especially coming from the Republican or conservative side, that no one ever shows up, and so prior to any of this happening, My husband was already listening to Vivek, right? Maybe about a month or so, probably when he first hit the scene. He was like, because he's a big Second Amendment guy, right? So he was like, Tosh, you got to hit this guy. He's at the NRA. And so I listened. I'm like, okay, right. I like what he's saying, And so then all of a sudden, maybe a week or so later, I talked to Devin, and it was just all this stuff going on Twitter. He was talking racism, and I was like, I didn't hear any of that. And so me and my husband was like, okay, we're going to go back and watch and listen again. Maybe we missed something, in terms of what he was saying at the NRA. And so that kind of already had me kind of looking at Vivek and kind of saying, okay, this is it. And so for me and my husband, watching that, and my husband already kind of watching everything. And then I get the call from Devin, Devin, the first thing I'm saying, okay, God, what are you about to do now? What I'm saying? It's kind of a little prophetic for us, like what is about to happen. And so when I heard that you guys are on the Zoom and, everything that happened, originally, I believe Pastor Corey Brooks was supposed to be at his church, things transpired. And so now me and Devin trying to talk, and we're trying to figure out where can we have this town hall? Where can we do this? And he talking about the barbershop. My husband is the owner of Third Phase Barbershop. And so I said, you know what, Devin? It's a venue right across the street from my husband's shop. I said, it's a beautiful venue. I said, the owner of the venue gets his hair cut in the shop. I said, that'll be perfect. And I said, nah, we in the hood now. I know they want to come to the barbershop, but praise God. South Shore is a beautiful historical community, and I said, if they want to have it there, that'll be beautiful. I said, I'll call Miss Regina, who's the owner of the shop, her and her husband. And I said, I'll give them a call and see. And so our thing was, this is so short notice, like, because they, it's prom season. And I mean, they have stuff at that venue every day, all day. So I'm like, okay, God, I hope you open the door for this thing, right? And so we called Miss Regina, and we did not tell her initially what the event was going to be. We just told her a community event. Because, I'm going to be honest, as Blacks being Republicans, you'd be kind of scared, like, I don't know, we should say what it is. And she's like, yeah, I'm serious. And she'd be like, you ain't using my venue for that. So I was just like, then we just go tell her a community event, And she asked, what y'all trying to have? And I was like, and I told her I'm Ron's wife, yada, yada, yada. And so, that's all we told her. So we kept calling you Miss Cat. We always going back and forth on the phone, trying to get everything squared away, get the time and all those things. And so when we finally got it solidified, we told Miss Regina, and she was elated. So I was glad. She was excited. And I say, look at God, And so it was, we hadn't digested all yet. I'd say for me, I hadn't digested. My husband hadn't digested. But I'm going to tell you what really blessed me, Miss Kathy. When me, you, and Stephanie, Christy, when we got on the Zoom, and pretty much all the details was worked out. Oh, no, two things. The fact that I was afforded the opportunity to do the flyer. Thank you, Devin. Devin always Tasha. And
it was beautiful.
Okay, this is a presidential election campaign. Clearly, they got a media team and a team to do all these things. They don't need little old me down here doing a flyer. So thank you, Ms. Kathy, for that. I felt honored for that. And then the second thing that really blessed me, when I think Christy said we had to open up with prayer, I think, and I think Stephanie may have said the Pledge of Allegiance. And the fact that the door opened up for our homeschool group to read the creed, that did it. Everything else was just whatever y'all want to do. That just blessed me, because again, even today, me, Devin, and Andrew was talking, Miss Kathy, seriously. Being in your position and the magnitude of who all of you guys are, you could have easily said, no, this is a presidential campaign. We got to do the American flag. We got to do the Pledge of Allegiance, and it would have been perfectly fine, perfectly understood. So I really want to stress to the people that's listening, God really used Miss Kathy, because she entrusted me and Devin. I know she's been knowing Stephanie a while. She don't know me, right? This is her first encounter with me and Devin. And for her to entrust us the way that she did, to bring Vivek here, her team, herself, knowing that her reputation will be on the line for the venue, for my husband's barbershop, everything that we did, even, the food, catering the food. And I don't know, I'm gonna just throw this out. Even, using my little chafing dishes. I mean, everything was huge. People don't understand how Miss Kathy really, really put her neck on the line and trusted Devin and I and everybody.
And
everything to pass the way that she did. Yeah.
I want to jump in there real quick because it was funny. I remember the first Zoom that we had, I think it was Monday. And, I thought I was just going to be silent. It was going to be, everybody knows Stephanie, right? And it was, I think Pastor Brooks was on that Zoom and some other people. And I'm like, well, I don't even know what I'm here for. They don't need me. And I think the first thing I said was, Kathy said, go around and say why you're here. And I was like, well, I'm just here because I suggested we use Latasha Fields' barbershop for the event, and then Kathy just ran with it. She was like, "The barbershop. Where should we eat? Dailies? Yep, daily." It was just like immediately every suggestion she just ran with it. No gatekeepers. That's been my common theme is that there's been no gatekeeping. It really was a community-oriented event, and that is not something that's normal in politics.
And let me say something about gatekeeping, because I've been hearing that word used.
Yeah,
in
Devin,
At one point, Christy, because my husband heard something negative towards Miss Kathy, and so me and Devin was just rambling, looking at the gatekeeper word from a negative connotation. And my husband say, "No, Miss Kathy was a gatekeeper. She protected it." And so he went biblical and said, as a shepherd, that's what a shepherd do. It protect the sheep. So yes, she did gatekeep. She did protect the interest of what she seen she wanted to happen for her community, because she trusted me and Devin on the ground. And so he really brought a different perspective that we always want to use the word negatively, but he said God used gatekeepers. And Miss Kathy was a gatekeeper to make sure that that which needed to happen in the city of Chicago, on the south side of Chicago, happened. So God bless you, Miss Kathy. So we can put that out in the air right now. Yes, a hireling, the word of God says a hireling, that's a gatekeeper too. They leave the sheep open to the wolves, but that was not her role, and that was not her heart, and that was not what she did. She made sure, and I repeat, that event was done in a way that the people in that community will be pleased.
Mm-hmm.
So, amen.
Right.
That blesses my heart. That blesses my heart because, from the very beginning, we want to be authentic, and it's something that I do. I mentioned to you guys, I probably put on over 80 of these events just myself on the grassroots side, along with the rest of the team, but me kind of taking the lead in creating these events. In primarily, primary Republican areas, and I always try to be as authentic, or try to keep in mind the role of the people, because again, I believe your people best, or your community best. And so I took that same mindset over into this, is that you guys, Latasha, Devin, and Stephanie, Illinois better than I ever will. You live there, born and raised there. So not you, Latasha, but you've been there for a while now. So about, and your business is there on the South Shore. And so, that was my heart, was to make it as authentic as possible to the community. I wanted you guys to drive the agenda for that day. I knew the weight of what it was that we were bringing to the South Side. I understood the weight of it, the weight of the campaign, how this was going to be magnified in ways we still probably haven't fully appreciated yet. But I wanted to do that, and very prayerful, very thoughtful as we walked. And so I think it was divine appointment for the people who were there on that Zoom. And then we picked you up by Tuesday, Latasha, and we just kept rolling.
Just that everything came together so quickly, and the right people were called to this to be able to make all of this happen. It was divine that your husband's shop is in South Shore and that the venue was across the street. Logistically, it was just amazing that We had this great venue. We brought the food in. Everybody loved the food. And then we were able to walk. That's such a big impact that here's this person running for president, just didn't come there and do this manicured, scheduled event with chosen questions. He took questions just from the gut. Anybody that wanted to come up and ask a question was able to ask a question. But him walking in that community, to me, that's just never been done. I mean, in Chicago, we had a presidential candidate come here and he wasn't even allowed to speak. He got run out of the city. So this is the city of big shoulders. It's hard, but this is what's happening in South Shore already happened in a community called Woodlawn, a school that had been shuttered. And that's very controversial in Chicago. The fact that they closed 50 schools in mostly Black neighborhoods. Those schools have been empty and they've been begging for them to do something with them. So a school called Wadsworth in Woodlawn was kind of just without their permission. They spent millions of dollars. They refurbished this. And the next thing you know, busloads of immigrants, as they like to say, of migrants, illegal people coming here without our permission. And I listen to Black Talk Radio every day. Even though I'm a Republican, I'm addicted to hearing what they say. And when I heard a dad's heart when he said, these buses are pulling into our communities. These grown men are getting off the bus. They're being handed a packet of like toiletries or whatever. They go inside this school. And he said they hop on a bike and they just disappear in our community. And we don't know who they are. And just to hear this passionate cry from a father saying, who are these people coming into our community? And it's just unfortunate that we might get a few, elected officials that'll say, hey, yeah, what's going on? But unfortunately, the history of Chicago politics is that, hey, it's a new mayor. Nobody wants to ruffle his feathers, and they might make a little stink in the beginning, but they lean on them, and all of a sudden, they're not speaking for the will of the people. And so to draw attention to this and how Kathy wanted to do this, to make sure Vivek wasn't coming here talking out to people. She wanted to have people in the community to have a voice and, putting people from Chicago on the panel. This was something that, to me, he made history. When else is a presidential candidate going to come here and walk the streets of Chicago? This was just amazing.
Let's show a little bit what he did, because not only did he walk, but how long was the walk?
Like 20 minutes or something.
I feel like that walk was longer than that. Was it?
Yeah, that was a long walk. I think that only it was 20 minutes.
At least
I think that walk was Kathy's idea.
And it rained. And it rained. Right. And it rained. Yeah. So it was right.
So I'm gonna show
it was fun though, right?
Yes, it was nice. It was beautiful conversations. We were walking. Me, Devin, and Vivek walked and talked a little while. Then it was like we were switching partners.
Yeah.
Wrong, and we switched up with somebody. And me and Miss Kathy switched up. So it was
fun.
Yeah.
And I will I'll be speaking to that Kathy. Right. All right. We're gonna have a serious. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. All right. So I'll know the name is so when I speak. I call more attention to it. Will do. Thank you.
We are walking with Team Vivek to South Shore High School. Guardian, they gave us umbrellas. Still walking down to South Shore High School. Starting to rain now. Chicago rain.
The rain makes it interesting.
Yeah. Thank God for everything.
Natasha's daughter and another little girl. So it started to rain, so we just walked faster. I turned around. I'm like, where did they get the umbrellas from? We didn't get an umbrella, but I was teasing them because they had their hair was either braided or twisted. I said, we don't have to worry about our hair because we looked up, we were 2 blocks ahead of you guys. We were just walking, trying to get there. And God was so good that it just stopped raining, because some of the cameramen, they were worried about their equipment. And I said to one of them, did you pray to get this rain to stop? Because they were worried about how they're going to take care of their cameras. But it was a great walk. I wish I knew how many was it about a mile and a half or something? Right. It was good.
Vivek opening up his opening statement. And when it comes back, I just kind of want Devin to talk about what he expected, because I know, Vivek said that he was coming to listen, but when do politicians ever really just listen?
A group of people that's in an insulated environment all agreeing with one another. I think the harder thing to do, and part of why we're rolling out our new campaign slogan here. It's the first event we've done at this good. Our campaign slogan going forward, starting right here today, is one word: it is truth. We're doing that. The path to truth runs through open dialogue. And so I want to have some honest conversation. And so my reason for being here is first to listen to people in this community and to hear how you think we put every American first.
Yeah, I was surprised that he unleashed his new slogan in Chicago. I think, did you hear those people clapping? I think that was what I was most surprised by. Those were nobody in that room was a Vivek supporter, right? Mm-mm. Nobody in that room, including myself, endorsed him or hasn't. There has been no this is who we're all standing for. Mm-hmm.
And talk about the demographics of the room, because a lot of people have said that there was mostly white people. Talk about the demographics.
No. There were white people serving us,
right?
If that's who you saw, literally, it was a very interesting dynamic, because between Latasha and myself, the volunteers were white people from the suburbs. All of them. And the room was people from South Shore, from Woodlawn, business owners. Right next to that venue is a bakery shop, and I had just gone in there the day before to tell them about the event, and they actually put up 6 flyers in their window. The person who owned, I think it's a seafood restaurant right next door to that, they were there. There were business owners from on 71st Street. There were residents from Auburn Gresham. I can't remember where. I'm thinking of Jasmine, Latasha. I can't remember where she.
Right next door to my ward. So yeah,
Pullman. She's in. I think it's Pullman. So it was really Black people from the south and west sides of Chicago. Stephanie, who doesn't live in Chicago but hails from the west side, is probably the Black person that lived the furthest away from anything. So it really was the south side of Chicago. Yes. You live the furthest. I forgot about that. I don't know why I'm putting you in Chicago. So the dynamic really was the community. That's it. It was nothing more, nothing less than the south side of Chicago.
And those people were very passionate. The questions, the first question out the box was there were no softball questions. Those people just came hard. They were serious. And it was like baptism by fire. They came, they ate, they had good food, and they were ready to ask him some tough questions. And he handled each and every one of them superbly. He's just, that's who he is. He doesn't have to have advisors or speech writers. He just tells you, this is who I am.
Let's show one of the questions. And of course, it's a reparations question. This was I think maybe the third or the second. There were how many reparation questions? We had at least 4.
This gentleman is a good man, but let me tell you, don't fall for the trap. Don't let people tell you to dismiss the argument about reparation. I lived 6 months here in Chicago and 6 months in California. I'm 66 now. I've learned the trick of the weather. California is serious. The Blacks in California.
About the illegals coming into the community, taking resources from us, but reparations seems to be, that was the common thread going throughout the conversation. And today on Black Talk Radio, I was listening to a newly elected alderman. That's what our councilmen are here in Chicago are called. And it occurred to me, some people have the mindset that, hey, you found money for them, stop it. give us for reparations. But then I realized, listening to this argument, they support the illegals coming here because they want to be able to say, oh, look what you're doing for them, so now give us ours. And with no addressing where the money's coming from, but it seemed like it quickly went from illegals to reparations, and that was an interesting, out of nowhere, that topic should come up.
I think that they are tied together, though. Okay, yeah, I think that it's tied together. So many of us in Chicago, I've been here my entire life. Reparations, there has been a movement for reparations for a while, for decades in the Black community, and I would say there's probably a continuity to someone in the Black community calling for reparations, going all the way back to when they were first promised. And so I think the reason it's louder now is because we are trying to figure out, how is it that you have taken so much from a community and disinvested so much, used our money to disinvest in us, which is outrageous. When you think of the Obama Library, when you think of the ghost buses that we have with CTA, when you think of the fact that I think something like 80% of the homeless in Chicago are Black and are veterans, Black veterans. When you think of how the Black community in Chicago has been raped and pillaged by the municipal government, and people like to say we voted for it, but we did not vote for any of this stuff. And so people are trying to figure out, okay, you can continue to take a pound of flesh from us, and you can find 3 pounds of flesh to give to these people. When do we get what is owed? When do we get reinvested in? When do we get repaired from redlining? When is my mother repaired from segregated miseducation centers known as the public schools? When does my grandmother, who's still alive, when does she get an apology and a repair from having to go through Jim Crow and the things that happened here in Chicago? So I don't think the two are separated. I think they're always together. Anytime the government can find money to send to the Ukraine, to Iraq and Afghanistan to fight endless wars, you're telling me that we can't do what we've done for Japanese Americans. So, and don't get me started on reparations, but that's the mindset is
I was just about to say,
we can't keep doing for other people.
We need to do a separate. We need to do a separate meeting on reparations, because we're Black conservatives, not everybody thinks the same, and I'm learning that. And this might be an interesting conversation to have, set aside, from what we're talking about. But it's it's like it's a lot on the table about that, right?
That's why it's so loud.
And then one point, when me and Devin was walking with Vivek, he asked me, what did I think about reparations?
Oh,
so because all that was going on in the town hall, and then what happened in the barbershop, y'all know Callaway Williams, who's one of my husband's clients, the one that kind of like really doing those hard questions about looking out for the Black community. So those things was real fresh on Vivek's mind. And so what I told Vivek, I said, as a businessman, let me bring it to you from a business perspective, and I know Christy want to move on, but I was able to get him to see it from a perspective of economics, right? You can't pillage and rape a community and not reinvest back in it. So our communities have been disinvested. We have been disenfranchised disproportionately. And so when you think about it from a business perspective, incentivizing Black businesses, incentivizing small businesses, trade schools, vocational schools, entrepreneurialism, when you think about the Booker T. Washington model of education, when you take it from that perspective, hey, you may not like the word reparations, but do you like the word restitution? I don't care what word you want to use. There needs to be an investment into our communities, right?
Right. But Devin, you said we didn't vote for this, but we need to make the coalition and remind, because Latasha ran for office, I ran for office, and try to draw that coalition to tell people, when you vote for Democrats, this is a sanctuary city. We're welcoming. All their policies come with it. And to try to get them to understand, if you're a business owner, if you're a homeowner, even if you don't own a home, you live in a home or an apartment that someone owns it. So these policies by the Democrat is going to make your rent go up, going to make your taxes go up. So that's a whole different issue. They did vote for this. They knew this was a welcoming city. Christy,
that argument, let me say one thing. That argument drives me crazy, Stephanie, that they voted for this, because literally I had no choice. Like, there's no Republican that ran for mayor.
Well,
right? So the mayor is rolling out the red carpet.
I mean, I tried, right?
Natasha tried.
We're not showing up.
Yeah, they mock, but Christy's right, Devin, what we're saying. So they did tangibly walk in and vote, those that voted, but they voted. This is how I look at, the argument, oh, blacks vote 89% Democrat, whatever. So I look at it from a civics perspective. You have people that are exercising their right to vote. And unfortunately for a lot of people, those that want to vote and just want to participate, they're going to vote. The problem is, I believe, as this movement is growing, everything that we're all doing collectively and individually across the country, I believe there is so much more awareness to what is happening that I believe that as we continue to inform our communities within the sphere of our influence, this narrative that blacks vote upwards of 80-90% Democrat, I believe that is trickling and is going to continue to decrease. But the problem is, there has not been a message inundated in our community. There has not been another option, an alternative, because again, if you got people that are determined, especially a lot of our elders that are still living, a lot of our black women that vote, because that's who drives the voting in the black community. When you got people that understand the importance of voting, understand this democracy and what it means to have a voice, they're going to vote. The real problem is, who are they going to vote for? There has not been any options. And so you had with this Mary, like you had 16, 17 people running for mayor, all Democrat, whether socialist, whether progressive. And you mean to tell me we got an Illinois GOP, we got a Chicago GOP, we got 12 million people in this state, we got 2.56 million in the city, we got 1.5 million that are registered voters, and we couldn't find no Republican candidate? Well, shame on the GOP.
Right.
Shame on them. So, right, Christians, when we say, they voted, well, they need out, right?
They didn't have any, right, exactly. And I mean, we talk about our leadership and lack thereof. It's kind of embarrassing that an outsider had to come in, Vivek coming in, and why was our leadership, Illinois GOP, should have been in those town halls. They should have been there saying, hey, our platform, we're all about securing the border. We hear your pain, and hey, maybe again, it wouldn't have been an instant red pill moment for them, but at least somebody's listening because they know how the Democrats are going to vote on this issue. But we have the best platform, but it's the best kept secret ever because we're not in those communities daily. You can't show up 6 months before, hi, I'm running for office, I'm a Republican. We need to it's 301 days right now until our primary. We need to already be in those communities. And we're not going to win them over. I love how Vivek says, we're not going to agree on everything, but we need to meet them where they are on things that are important, especially school choice. Latasha getting that out and how important it is and how doable it is. And that's something that is very important, because how are you going to break the cycle of poverty if people can't even read? I mean, they're talking about, you're going to teach a Black history in schools. I'm like, the reading levels that you shared, Latasha, half of those buildings, they have whole buildings where nobody's proficient at their grade level in reading and math, but you want to teach them how to be activists. You want to teach them about non-binary and 57 sexes instead of teaching them about civics and how important it is. Every vote counts, your vote counts, and what's important about it, and what they're trying to introduce in Springfield. Chicago, you guys don't understand, they don't have an elected school board, so that's something that they're working on. They want to give people that aren't even citizens the right to vote for school board. Next thing you know, they're going to get city IDs and they're going to be able to vote for who's mayor. It's just that camel's nose under the tent, and we're going to give up all of our rights.
IDs.
See, I mean, and we have to be aware, and it's really scary.
But Christy, I want to reiterate, with all of that said, the fact that you heard the opening remarks from Vivek. I know you're going to play some more clips, but he didn't come here to ask for anything. He literally came here, which was so surprising to me, to jumpstart our grassroots conservative organization. Between him and Kathy, that was kind of the entire narrative. And so for me, who was a vocal, open critic of Vivek, literally, I mean, Latasha mentioned that at the beginning of the show. Just 2 days, probably 2 or 3 days before that, I had a whole, Twitter thread about Vivek. And so I was terrified. I'm like, how am I gonna make this work? Because have they read what I posted? You know, different things like that. And I feel like I allowed him space to or the grace to grow. And the same could be said for his team, because if they had have seen the things that I posted just prior to that, there's no reason I should have been a part of this.
They saw it.
Oh, we're gonna look it up. Wait a minute. What did you post? Oh my goodness. No. How bad was it? Oh my goodness.
Well, if
No.
you remember, I don't know if because I don't think we were Twitter friends back then. I don't know if you saw,
Yeah.
but 3 weeks ago, I was leading the charge. Actually, for both him and Kathy, I was mad at and was calling them both out because I was like,
Yes.
as a Black
Yeah.
woman, how can she be
Yeah.
supporting this?
I gotta I didn't even know Christy. Right. Yeah, I didn't even know Christy. And someone in Manhattan said, "Are you watching what's happening on Twitter with Vivek?" And he said your name, and he was just blah, 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 you got to watch this. And next thing I know, you're on the Zoom call. I'm like, oh my goodness. So he lived up to his promise, met with you, and here you are. I mean, it's pretty cool. Won't God do it? You say never, 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 and then he'll just change it. Right. Mm-hmm.
And see, the thing that he may not know is he has a law degree. And I have a law degree. I'm not from Harvard, but whatever. We like to debate. We keep an open mind. We keep a level head. We're able to talk about issues. And that's what happened. We sat across the table for each other, 30 minutes, talked about issues. And my whole thing is, I don't ever want somebody that you're going to be able to control because of any kind of special interest. Now, this is the thing that I want to get into. Ooh, how do I say this? Well, I'm already in trouble. So, I'm just going to say it. We feel like as Black conservatives that we have pull on these, especially presidential candidates to say what they can say, what they can't say. We can have smoke for them all day long on Twitter. But what political power are we bringing to the table that actually moves the needle, that actually moves them? Now, I believe that Vivek, and again, he's not going to do everything we want. It's still going to be an 80-20 rule, right? There was something today. I was kind of and kept scrolling, right? Because it's going to be an 80-20 rule. But I have seen growth. I have seen him willing to listen, him willing to kind of, soften his tone a little bit, But what political power as Black conservatives, especially when we are fractured, are we bringing to the table to make, and I'm not talking about Democrats, to make conservatives, right, do anything for the Black community? Are we bringing votes?
Not primary votes.
That's an open question.
We're not bringing.
Are we?
At the moment, we're not bringing. So the primary is what these people are clamoring for right now. And at the moment, we don't bring enough primary votes to move the needle. Now, I'm not going to put that all on Black conservatives because we know we have a party that's doing some crazy stuff and saying some crazy stuff. But I think if you take Latasha and I, for example, on the south side of Chicago, we're going to keep doing this work of changing hearts and minds, first and foremost for the glory of God and for his kingdom. And then our political work is an extension of that evangelical work. I have to say that because Latasha gonna get me if I don't. No, but I'm kidding. But we are going to do this work regardless. My goal is to return this party back to the people that it was founded for. And so regardless of how much this party does, my goal, my mission is always to take this party over, first and foremost for the glory of God, but also for the Black Americans that it was originally founded for. And so if we can't do that and don't have a similar mindset, I mean, what are we really talking about and what are we really doing? Vivek showed up because of the work that we have been doing in Chicago. Obviously, it was the viral video, right? But the fact that this group of people got it, that means we've been doing something. someone noticed something to call me. Someone was told something for any of us to be involved. So that's just where I'm at, is that we bring these candidates here and we change. If they have hardened hearts, then we change their hearts and mind too. But I do agree that people should keep their boot on candidates' necks. This is America. We're founded on a Republican revolution, if you will. So we every 2 and 4 and 6 years we have a whole new revolution, and so we have to continue to press these candidates, and they're asking us for our most precious commodity, which is our vote. So yes, we are going to keep hounding them and pressing them for proper legislation, but we also have to give them space to say, okay, I had this wrong. I have a whole new policy.
Mm-hmm.
Right. And see, and we are not a monolith, right? So the way that you go about things may not be the way that I go about things. Right. Now, it's funny because when we did our podcast, Vivek was like, especially talking about Black fatherhood, because that's what I do. I do father's rights. I've done it for about 15 years. And he said, he kind of insinuated that it hurt me for it, to see what he was posting online. And I said, no, it didn't hurt me. It pissed me off. Right. And I said it just like that because it did. So my criticism of him was not, oh, I'm just out here criticizing, all the top Republicans, because to me, they're criticized with all of them. I was genuinely pissed at seeing everything that was coming online. But for me, I personally would rather spend the bulk of my effort bringing people to conservatism, bringing people, not by apologizing for them, not by, whitewashing what they're doing, but really vote your values, telling people your values. Different thing, you keep your boot on their neck, and I'm gonna be out here registering people and trying not that you're not, but I'm just saying, and we don't all, the beauty of it is we don't all have to do the same thing.
No, right. We all have different gifts that were given to us by God. And maybe, somebody might be more comfortable being vocal and sharing the platform and kind of arguing or encouraging people a little bit more, going back. That's kind of how I'm wired. But after 7 years on conservative radio in Chicago and people calling me and want to challenge me because I'm in this packaging, how could you be a Republican? You were raised on the west side of Chicago. You must be fake. They must be telling you what to say in your ear. So I've had to be like this and but that's not everybody's blessing and calling to be able to do that. Whatever gifts you have, whatever you bring in, and like you said, we're not monolithic. It's just so amazing, all the different types of conservatives, even Black conservatives. We all don't think alike. We all don't, do everything alike, and we all have different missions of what we need to do. But overall, the Republican Party is somewhat fractured. Even Black, white, or whatever, it seems to be the grassroots versus the professional Republicans, the grassroots versus those people that seem to be invested in, they don't care if we lose because they're going to get paid no matter what. And we've got the people that are willing to give everything and out there working hard, but the consultants are getting richer. The professional Republicans don't care because they're elected officials and they're going to get their pension and their paycheck, and everybody else is like, I want to win. And they're like, oh, we'll get them next time. So we got unity is something that we're lacking right now. But that's what's so great about Vivek. As the people that were saying on he was on our conservative station here in Chicago, and the feedback was he's, let's just say, a Trump without the drama. He's Trump without the protesters. He's Trump. He's an intelligent version of Trump. He doesn't come in built-in protesters. And, the fact that he was able to come without a bunch of people protesting and automatically hating him because of who he is. He is a Republican, so people immediately back, you're a Republican. But it was a blessing that so many people, like you said, the venue owner, when you share with her that he was a Republican, that she didn't say, just close the doors like, are you crazy? I'm not trying to get shut down. I'm bringing a Republican. But the lady in the bakery, because I wanted to go afterwards, I went and bought a couple pieces of cake and just engaged with her. The one that you said, Devin, that allowed you to put the posters in. She wanted to get into a little debate about Trump, which is she didn't like Trump. So maybe this was like an opportunity. Well, I'm tired of voting Democrat. And, it's going to be hard. Some people just don't like Trump no matter what. But here's a guy that's not Trump, even though he has a lot of the same America First, whatever, for her to be willing and to talk about it. It's a new day. And we need, at the top of the ticket, guys, we need somebody to unify the whole country.
Right. I'm going to play this clip, and it's talking about like the criminal justice system. And Tasha, when we come back from this, I want you to like just talk about how rare it is having someone on stage, talking to Vivek, who had spent time in jail. And also, like, when you guys are in Chicago, dealing with people every day, I don't care what anybody says, Black Americans are conservative. They just don't know it. Like, our values are conservative values. Let me play this.
And these communities that I don't see them when women and children are crying about murder. And I dislike, I'm not saying hate, I dislike them because those politicians that send these people to our community, Black folks, not concerned about our safety. As an ex-con, I couldn't even leave prison without checking into a parole site. And even after I served my debt to society, they got laws on the books that make us have to report in because of my crime. I have to, for 10 years, report into.
So I always say there's a subset of people, because I help people get expungements. I help people, re-enter, get back on their feet, get custody of their kids, get, to see their kids, and the extreme poor. And it seems like they're just forgot about. And so that really touched me because you don't hear anyone that issue, especially not to candidates. Tasha?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Tyrone has definitely become, I would say, a dear friend to me and my husband and Devin. In my first encounter with Tyrone, months back, Devin? Months back. I relate to Tyrone in a way from my mom's perspective, right? My mom was in and out of prison. So I kind of come from that and kind of understanding his heart in terms of returned citizens, in terms of them being reestablished back into society. So when I met Tyrone and we went by his facility, I was in tears in listening to him and listening to his story, because it was almost like it just kind of brought flashbacks from my childhood even into my adulthood, the things that I had to deal with, even with my mom and even with my husband. A lot of people don't know he come from a similar background, but God, so it's a lot of connections there. And so to have Tyrone on that stage with a presidential candidate, for me, it carried the whole weight of that event. It carried the whole weight of
he did.
It carried it. It brought the whole meaning to why, or to one of the major whys we had to do that, because you guys know, the whole ideology about Chicago, the whole clickbait, the narratives, the stereotypes is all about the crime, this, we're just always dehumanized, if you will, to a great degree. And so to hear from a now successful Black man, a strong, successful Black man, and even for him to get that opportunity to speak to a presidential candidate and all the things that we heard, it spoke volumes. It actually spoke volumes to that community. And I pray that Vivek take everything that Tyrone told him, even when they were walking, take it to heart and really understand that this is serious. This is not a game. We're not statistics. We're not numbers in somebody's database. And me and Devin talk about that all the time. For me and my husband, this hurts when I see how social media, because I'm originally from Louisiana. I'm from Baton Rouge, and my husband's been here 12 years. And it hurts that when I see and I watch social media, how all they do is talk about Chicago. And Stephanie, they'll tell me, when I was on the campaign, I used to tell them to shut the hell up. Because you know why? I'm telling you, these are people. These are human beings, and you need to be mindful of what you say about these people. We're not statistics. There's no batter in our back. And then all this talking, and we don't see now one jot, one of your fingers in these communities. And so all this talk about Vivek races and all that, and I'm saying, great. That's great if he is. He's coming to your community to talk. Let's charge him to it. He's coming to ask all the questions you want. Let's see if he keep that same momentum if that's the case. And so again, Tyrone brought a whole nother perspective that many of us would have not been able to bring. And so God allowed this event to be circle that every issue that was dear to our heart, because really to me, all this craziness, they can't put a charge to this event. They raised the bar in terms of what needs to happen, what should be happening. Enough telling us about the problems we got, because I'm pretty sure every Black American say, I got it, we understand it, we live it, and we seeing it. We're in this package every day. What's the solution? Right.
That's the thing I told him. We don't need to hear about us. America doesn't need to hear about, everybody knows what the problems are. Like, we don't need, and we especially don't need to hear it in front of white faces. That was the major problem that we were having. And you're right, Tasha. Like the one article, because y'all know, not too much bothers me. It really don't online. But the one thing that did bother me was them minimizing the numbers, because I don't care if it would have been 10 people. It was much more than that. But I don't care if it would have been 10 people. That event still would have been so powerful because, like you said, Tasha, he raised the bar. So now Trump, like, what you gonna do? You know, everybody's looking at the RNC, like, what are you gonna do? State parties,
look
like,
what he did.
What are you gonna do? You can't keep it no rain.
Well, the woman that owns the venue, or the man, he said that the room was set up had 91 chairs, and it was filled, and there were people standing up. So I don't know how people can minimize that. You know, so it is what it is. But they will try to do that. You know,
I counted because I was up there, as you can see in the video.
Oh yeah.
It was 103 people in that.
See, that's what I'm saying.
And so, that's not counting the people that I knew to be security. That does count our volunteers, but they volunteered so that
they were there
at the event.
Right. They weren't part of. It was
102 people. And again, you know, that article that you're talking about, Christy, from the I'm not even gonna say what the Fish Wrap article is, the publication, but
I'm probably gonna write an article.
I'll write an article. Yeah, they said it was about 40.
Oh my goodness!
If it was 40, that's 40 more people than the alderman has sat in front of.
Amen.
Than the mayor, both past and present, sat in front. That's true. 40 more people that the state rep, the state Senate,
governor,
the U.S. House, the 2 U.S. senators, the governor, the Metropolitan Water Reclamation District, or anybody on the Chicago Public School Board sat in front of. That's 40 more people than any of our politicians that supposedly look like us, say they part of us, and serve our community that we pay to destroy us. 40 more people than they have sat.
They paid. Really quickly, I just want to get this out on record that people might say, well, where were the faces from the viral video? We used every effort. We threw the net out. We really wanted their voices, their passion, because they're the ones that did the video, which made Vivek aware of what was going on. And some of the feedback was that they just didn't want to come, and they missed an opportunity to talk to someone who wants to be president and said, hey, I want you to help me mold and shape my policies on the border. So they missed an opportunity to talk to a presidential candidate because they just felt like, oh, is this a political stunt? They say the Republicans don't come to their community, and then when they come, it's all these hoops you got to jump through, and what do you mean? And they're testing you. But that's unfortunate. They missed out on the opportunity to draw even more national attention, because locally, there was one article locally, but you've got Getty's there, you have AP, you had national media there, and here's an opportunity for even more people to hear you, but they missed it.
Right. And even now, I mean, like every time I open Twitter, I'm seeing new content. You know, he's posting He has tons of videos that he's posting. And so this is going, I mean, I think it's going to have legs because it's the first one that he's doing, and he's going to do more. And I think my thing is, you know, again, I was leading the charge, y'all. I had the pitchfork. I was upset, 3 weeks ago. But you can't be so rigid in your thinking that you don't give people grace, time, and space to evolve. Yeah, I mean, we're not going to agree 100%. There's still going to be some stuff that we're going to be like, ugh. But again, you know, and my thing too is, here's the thing about not giving people space to be human and have human experiences. He's young, right? He's this, you know, Devin, I think you guys said you guys are the same age, right? I know I'm not the same person that I was 10 years ago.
Oh my goodness.
Right?
Oh, no way. Right.
People grow.
When you know better, you do better. And thank God I'm not the same person I was. And you know, he's always working on us, always trying to make us. And when you learn things and you can see that Vivek is like a sponge. I mean, he's not going to give up on his core values, but he is just like, oh my goodness. And you could just see him just taking all of this in, things that he just wasn't aware of. You know, it's plain and simple. This was exciting. And they can talk about the Republican Party all they want, but look at all the candidates. We have how many minority candidates running for, you know, 2 Indians, 2 Blacks. In the Republican Party, I'm like, that's a pretty big deal. That it's just not the party of, you know, old white guys, as they like to say. They're different people in different packaging with these core values that are saying, I'm a Republican.
Well, hopefully in 10 years, I have more money.
You in 10 years, you don't know. Oh, okay. So well, take us with you.
Colloquial handshake. Y'all seen that, right? Make sure y'all get that. This is my neighborhood. From South Shore.
Tasha, so I think it was you that told me, because I'm just thinking this just some guy in the barbershop. But he's actually, like, I think somebody told me when stuff pops off, he's the one that's talk a little bit about this gentleman.
Yeah, me and my husband are Will, 12 years since we've been here. No, Will is a political activist, community activist in that community. He's on the scene when somebody gets shot. He's doing things a little similar to how Tyrone do. He's deal with a lot of the young men in that community, trying to keep them off the street. He deal with, you know, if you would, the gangbangers all the time. He's ran for several different offices. So no, he was talking to a real connector. That was not, if you would know, you know, Joe Blow off the street. No. And to be honest, when Devin told me that he was coming and me and my husband was talking about it, that was the first thing. We was like, we got to have Will Calloway in the room. We got to have him in the room. And so my husband reached out to him. It's like, man, you got to get here. Because we know Will, you know. And so I thank God that Will was there, because he really set the stage. And we know his heart. We know he has a heart for his community. He has a heart for his people. And he showed that, you know. And if anybody listens to the whole clip, I don't know if it's been played anywhere. You know, Will gave him some tough questions.
Played,
he got things to really think about and consider. And so we're just very grateful for that. And again, Vivek handled himself, you know, and that's what I liked about him. Vivek, he's very approachable. You know, I think I didn't feel, you know, because, you know,
did he feel uncomfortable?
No, because that's what I'm about to say. My spiritual intelligence.
Did he feel uncomfortable?
No. I think I didn't feel any tension from him. I didn't feel any anxiety from him. To me, he was laid back. To me, he was comfortable.
Just normal. He's just a normal guy. Yeah.
You know, he was shaking. He was embracing. He was talking. He was laughing. I think he was a very approachable guy. He chatted up with my daughter. I mean, he was just it was just fun moments. He was just great. I'm gonna be honest. You know, it shocked me. It really surprised me. How
just regular.
Well-rounded his demeanor was. You know.
Yeah.
You know, it was very good. Even my husband, he was saying, you know,
you forget.
Yeah, you forget that he was a candidate.
You forget the man is worth $1 billion.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I picture. You know, he was very approachable, and it was refreshing from that standpoint. And you know, I grew up. My mother worked for the Cook County Sheriff's Department for 26 years, so I grew up around judges and politicians, and some of these people that they name. You know, I saw them as little kids, and he did not act like a politician. I have met very wealthy people. He didn't act like what you would think a billionaire or close to billionaire would be acting like. If you said something, he was listening. And if he didn't hear you, he would say, "What did you say?" You know, one of the things I mentioned to him was in continuing that conversation that he had with Latasha about reparations. I was on the other side, and I mentioned to him about the Homestead Acts that the United States government passed back in the day. And he said, he mentioned, "I'm not familiar with that. Say that again," because it was almost like, okay, if I don't know something, I need you to say it 2 more times so it can get in my head. And he said, "I'm going to go research that, study that. You make some good points." He did a lot of listening and none of the talk. I mean, none of the talking points were brought. And again, as Kathy said in the beginning of the actual event, we're not saying we endorse him right now. Everybody's just waiting to see. But what he brought, I haven't seen any presidential candidate bring to the South Side.
Right.
Is it true that maybe some of his policy ideas might need to be fleshed out a little bit more? That's just me. I'm hard. I'm a hard, nut to crack. So yeah, and I'm gonna keep, as I said, I keep my boot on the neck of politicians, but in a graceful way, if you will. He was somebody that that seems to be collaborative, open to listening, and you couldn't have told me that a week ago. Today, while we were planning this,
right? Let me
convince me.
And then they were getting ready to get on the bus to, go to their next thing. And he was like, "Oh, I want you to meet my wife because she's the one that actually found you on Twitter." And throat, and I didn't know that then. But he's like, she found you on Twitter and she said you seem some, and she was the one that pointed me out to him. So I hopped on the bus. I'm talking to her and I'm talking to his campaign manager. So the bus is about to go, and they're like, "Well, you could ride with us, but it's about an hour outside." I'm like, "I got time," right? So I'm riding on the bus with them for an hour, and me and his wife are talking, and she's like, "Hold on, you're making some good points. Vivek, come here and bring your," and he starts, taking little notes and jotting down what I'm saying. So that's in line with what you're saying, Evan, as far as being not, even though he is who he is, he's still willing to listen to somebody that has an opposing side.
Right,
or a
exactly.
different. The other thing, real quick, about him is I'm originally from Ohio, and he's from Ohio. He's from outside of Cincinnati. Until he was in, I think, 8th grade, he actually went to a predominantly Black school. So the familiarity that he, with the handshake and the familiarness and the comfort level is because he's from Ohio, so, outside of Cincinnati.
Oh.
So, yeah, Stephanie.
It's so funny. I'm just thinking before you said that he's the kind of person that could come to a Black barbecue and just walk in the backyard and just start talking. He wouldn't have to wait for somebody to introduce him. He'd just be like, "Hey," and I think if he brought the potato salad, it wouldn't have raisins in it. I think he would know to make sure that it's just, he just seems comfortable, and he knows about Black people. And I didn't know that his school was predominantly Black until you just said that. But you just get the sense that he's just, he's not uncomfortable. He's comfortable wherever he goes. And that's because he's just genuine and authentic. And that's just so great to be able to, again, I've never been around someone that's worth $500 million. I've never been around a candidate running for president. And you just forget that he's just a regular guy. I mean, I was trying to think of when I first met him, I was like, what can we talk about that we have in common? I'm like, oh, we both went to Catholic school. So he went to Catholic school. And you know what? Being that he's a Hindu, a practicing Hindu, what impressed me is that one of his first events, he announced on a Tuesday, we were in New Hampshire. One of his first events was about 17 evangelical pastors and probably 5 or 6 Catholics, not priests, but Catholic people, and how he sat in a small room with people that have different faith than him, but answering questions and they're vetting him. And I'm just like, wow, I'm just so impressed. He put that first on his agenda. One of the first 5 stops that he made, he wanted to go and talk to faith leaders. I'm like, who does that? And he handled it because he went to Catholic school. He knows the Bible, and he was just so comfortable. And I'm just watching him the whole time. I'm just sucking it up. I'm like, oh my goodness, this guy will go in a small room. He works people in a large room. He draws people in. It's something about him. He has that it factor, as they like to say.
So I want to say 2 things, and then I want to play a clip, and then we can, say whatever else you want to say.
Okay.
To wrap up Twitter. And as they say, go, touch grass, because honestly, even the things that he's saying that I had problems with, my husband, who wasn't on Twitter at the time, had no, and I think Tasha, you had said you had never seen him talk about Black people, because it's literally this much of what he has to say. But on Twitter, it becomes amplified. And I didn't realize that. And I kind of felt a little silly because I had totally turned my mind off to him. I was like, I'm not listening to nothing he says. I'm not listening to no podcast. I'm not listening to nothing. But when I was on the plane to go meet him in Michigan, I was like, shoot, I better do some research, right? So I put on the Reason podcast, which is, y'all know I got libertarian roots. So it was a libertarian podcast. And race, I don't even know if it was mentioned. If so, maybe it was. And I was like, oh, that's not his shtick. That's not the bulk of what he talks about. But Twitter will have you in this fishbowl thinking that people are the most racist people on earth because it gives you back yourself. Right? Twitter keeps feeding you yourself. So, and the people that you most interact with, right? So it'll have you hyped up and like really like wanting to go for people. You gotta like look at other things that they have said. And I forgot what else I want to say. Anybody else?
I would say that you do have to turn off Twitter sometimes and like just go outside and sit in the sun. I'm not gonna deny that some of the things that I heard, even if it was a small percent, I would like Republican politicians. Democrats can do what they want; they're already off the cliff. But Republicans, I want us to be better, right? And so, if I'm in a room full of men, I'm not gonna talk women's reproductive health, right? Because women would want to have that conversation. If I'm in a room full of white people, I'm not going to talk Black fatherlessness because the white people in that room can do nothing about Black fatherlessness or even know what I'm talking about. Yeah. So I'm not going to create a stereotype for them. I'm going to talk to Black people. So from that standpoint, and I think that he heard that, I feel like he heard that at this thing, and maybe he did it innocently. I want our Republican politicians, when you talk about a community, talk to that community and not to the base or somebody that's not a part of that community. So I think that's where that comes from. But now that we've gotten over that hump, and I would like to think that we have, let's just be over the hump. You know what I'm saying? He has gotten the message thus far. Hopefully the other ones have also gotten that message. So I don't think it has to keep being harped on.
Well, see, for me, Devin, I'm not going out on that leg, right? So I'm holding my breath because y'all know who's going to get tagged if it reverts, right? But again, we have no control, right? We can just put it out there and hope hearts and minds were changed. And even if it's like, it don't have to be an about face. I'm not expecting an about face. Even if it's just a little fraction of a turn, I'm good. I don't think none of us, I don't think, are to the point where we've endorsed them or saying that we're going to vote for him. I mean, we like them, there's things we like, but none of us, maybe Stephanie, I don't think that we've given that endorsement yet. The other thing is we can never say what anybody is going to do. So I don't want us to be blindsided if tomorrow, we open it up and it's just,
Correct.
because
Correct.
we don't know.
I
But
agree.
all we can do is hope that we do the work. I got your back, Devin. Yeah.
But
Tasha,
I'll just say
anything?
this. I'm sorry. He opened the door to grassroots conservative organizing. And if nothing else comes from that, we are in a better position to change the trajectory of Chicago. Sorry, go ahead, Latasha.
Oh no, I echo you guys 100%. I'm just grateful for Miss Kathy and you, Kristen, your team, and everybody that he came. And I just repeat, he raised the bar. And I would just suggest to all candidates, especially on the Republican side, come with the solutions. Leave the narratives behind, leave the ideologies behind, because I think in what God has allowed them to see in Chicago, me personally, and I'm saying personally, we didn't bust through all the narratives. So, y'all can miss us with all that, right? Because they only take a small minority of us and they take this broad brush stroke and, they use all these clickbait words all over social media. And that is not all of us. And I think that's what Vivek saw. Like he saw a whole different perception of who we are as Black people in the city of Chicago, that we're not these people on Twitter. We're not these people on social media. These are real people. These are business owners. These are homeowners. We care about our kids. We care about our family. We care about our money, right? We care about what our government is doing, and I think that's what he left with. And in one of his videos, he even said, these are religious people, you know what I'm saying? Humanitarian, nobody was being nasty concerning the illegal immigrants, And I was telling somebody, me and Devin was on the phone with the other night, like, it's not just to have this total reparation conversation, but this immigration issue is triggering that conversation, is making that conversation louder, which is rightfully so. And I think that's what Vivek was to see, that we're real people, and what we're feeling, what we're experiencing, it matters. And so again, I would encourage all of these candidates, come with your solutions, sit before us, like Devin said, we're all saying, don't talk about us, talk to us, right? Because we're the better mouthpiece to tell you what our community needs. We're living this thing out. You're not here, right? You're not in our community. And so again, I think Vivek did a wonderful job in showing Republicans, like he said in one video, show up, right? Showing them what to do, right? And so we'll be always grateful to him, no matter what the outcome happens with this presidential election. I think we'll always be grateful to him that he came and he did what he did. So that's my thing. Come with the solutions.
All right. Well, it's so important during this primary season that it seems like already it's becoming a little bit of in the primary, in the Republican primary, and it's important that we all, once we're through this process, it should be a healthy primary, that we are going to come together and support the candidate. Because thank goodness, I want to knock on wood, whoever we put up will be better than Joe Biden, and be better than whoever they might put up, because I got a feeling they might switch out candidates at the end, Joe Biden, but whatever. So that's the main thing. I know some people are like, oh my goodness, what do you mean you're not going to support Trump? We're going to support whoever wins this process. And that's important because we know what's at stake and we got to come together. And if I had some advice, if I could talk to the people at the top of the ticket, Republican leadership, enough with the bloody primaries. Then you don't have to apologize when it's all over. Just talk about policies. And again, just engage with communities that you normally would say don't vote Republican. What was more frustrating to me after the primaries, a lieutenant governor candidate, that on my calendar, I had so many Republican events. I'm like, the primary is over. I've already got these Republicans voting for me. Why am I spending all these afternoons and these evenings in country clubs with Republican women? That made no sense to me. We need to be in those communities that the Democrats have taken for granted and we've just ignored. And that's what it's all about. Vivek let people know that, hey, you could come to the Black community. Look, I was there. I walked with them. He just didn't do a hit it and quit it kind of thing. He stayed in that community, walked the community. He was there, from 9:30 to 1:30? That's like punching a clock. That's a job. I mean, and he
Right.
showed him, look, and he got a lot out of it. Exactly. So he set, like you said, you guys have said, he set the bar pretty high. And you know what? We're just not flyover country here in Illinois. It's always the East Coast and the West Coast. We're in the middle. We're the heart of the country. And he came here and listened to people, and he got to know what most people just don't know about us, that we have value. Illinois is a wonderful state, rich with resources. Unlike you, and Latasha and I, we got to travel this state. It's amazing. I didn't know how phenomenal Illinois was. And so it's great that somebody gave us a little attention, a lot of attention.
Stephanie, you can't say that.
What?
Hit it and quit it. This is a Christian podcast.
I'm sorry. Well, I mean, he didn't do an appearance and then got back in his limo. You know, he just didn't do it. I mean, you know, he stayed. I'm sorry.
I would say one more point. Stephanie made me think about something, you know, because and then I know, Chris, you got to close it up. But one more point in terms of Republicans, you know, and as Stephanie said, you know, me and her both were grinding, you know, with this lieutenant governor thing, and it was just an amazing experience. But what I seen in traveling, you know, like you said, you know, when you're in the primary, you know, you're trying to hit the party lines, you know, Republican. I seen so much fear, right? And so my message, they're going to tell you, my message being, you cannot govern that which you fear. You can't. You know, we got an event in Chicago. You scared to come to Chicago? What are you talking about?
What are you scared of?
You can't. And so again, they walk that out. And I repeat, you cannot govern that which you fear.
Amen. Amen.
Right?
Yep.
Let it go. Come into these communities. You want to be a politician. A lot of you believe God then called you to do it. Then come into these communities. Right? You have to come talk to these people. And it's enough of governing us, if you will. You know, you want to govern the whole country, you want to govern the whole state, but you won't come to this group of people. Listen, the devil is a lie. We're not doing all that no more, right? Like, no, we're not doing that. And that's not right, that's not fair, and that's not just. And so I would encourage you, again, bring solutions and come show us how you want to govern us.
Amen. Very good.
I'm going to say it one more time. When we close, I'm gonna say it one more time. I don't really express the magnitude of, you know, we had the event. He walked across the street to the barber shop, and then we did this long walk. It even had time to start and stop raining before we got there. They didn't shut down the streets. Random people were walking up to him, and he was embracing them.
Yeah, like who is that? They would say, "Who is that guy?" Right. On
the streets of Chicago. So for anybody that says, "Oh, it was this or it was that or he was pandering," or, you know, I didn't see pandering. He could have came in 30 minutes and left. That's not what this was. He really spent, and this is a man that does 4 or 5 in a day, right? Yeah. So this is a man that spent half the day there because it was important for him to listen.
High energy.
So.
Right. Great.
Well, this was awesome, y'all. Devin, anything else, Mr. Chicago?
I'm just, you know, I'm grateful to know you. Actually, I don't know. You were also a breath of fresh air, very calming in the midst of the chaos. You know, you really were. I feel like, even though I think we had only spoken over the phone, and we did a Zoom, and in the midst of the Zoom, my stuff started messing up. I think that was the first time I actually saw you. But when you came here, I felt like we had been friends forever. You know,
you fit right in with us. You did. You fit right in. Maybe it's because you're from the Midwest. Ohio's a Midwest too. Maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
And I lived in Columbus, Ohio for 2 years. So I started a reentry ministry out there. 2018, 2019. So maybe that's what it is. I don't know.
Well, you know, I speak proper. I can't do nothing about that, you know, but at the end of the day, once people get past that, once people get past what you think, you know, I am, then you realize, like, I'm down to earth.
Okay,
You know,
very good.
none of that.
Thank you.
None of that matters. But this was awesome. My
Thank you.
internet would not let us be great today, but I
But
think
that's okay.
I think it's gonna be fine. We're gonna be able to hear enough through it.
Yes.
So let's close this out, and then I definitely want to chat a little bit. So again, thank you, Miss Kathy. She was a pro through the whole thing, got it together in less than a week. Thank you.
She said she's been doing it. Yeah. She said she did 80 of them. So yeah, she knows what she's doing. Yeah.
And I think everybody affiliated with this event has like a unifying spirit. Like we're not out here trying to especially divide Black Republicans. There's just not enough of us to be arguing. We're not trying to carry nobody's water. Devin's wearing his combat boots, right? I'm out here just trying to remind people to, I don't even tell people. Let me just give a little plug. So Swing Your Vote is what I started. And the premise of Swing Your Vote is you can't go into the inner city and say, hey, leave the Democrats and come be a Republican. You're not going to be able to red pill people. People are not going to move that fast. The independent label right now is where people are moving to. I'm saying swing your vote from being Democrat, just be independent. Just meet me halfway. And then let us earn your vote, right? I'm going to tell you why I'm not Democratic no more. Yeah, we're going to pull you in slowly. And we're going to make these politicians have to come to Chicago because there's this new crop of independents that just sprung up in the urban communities, in the Black communities. So again, that's the vibe that I'm on. I'm not out here trying to make no enemies. I don't have smoke for no Black conservatives. I just keep it pushing. But Devin, you keep you keep your boots on for both of us, okay? Thank you guys.
Thank you, Christy. It's a pleasure.
Thank you. It's a pleasure.
Thank you for tuning in to the Humanity Assembled podcast. Remember to like, comment, share, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to be notified when we drop videos in the future. Follow us on our other platforms and continue to help us build humanity one piece at a time.